You've been taught that tithing means giving 10% of your income to a church. That teaching cost you access to one of the most potent spiritual principles ever encoded in Scripture. The original concept had almost nothing to do with buildings, budgets, or Sunday morning collection plates. By the end of this, you'll understand tithing as what it actually is: a technology of energetic circulation that governs how abundance moves through your life. Start with the word itself. Tithe comes from the Old English word for tenth, but trace it further back into the Hebrew tradition and you find something strange. The instruction wasn't to give 10% to a priest, the instruction was to return a tenth of your increase to its source. That distinction matters more than almost anything you'll hear about money in a spiritual context. Returning to the source. The energy came from somewhere. The principle says, acknowledge that origin by keeping the channel open. Think about how water works. A river that flows into a lake and never flows out becomes stagnant, dead. The water sits, collects algae, loses oxygen, but a river that circulates, water in, water out, constant movement, stays clear and alive. Your relationship with abundance follows the same physics. When you receive and hoard, when you grip every dollar with white knuckles and build walls around what you've accumulated, you're damming the river. The flow that brought it to you in the first place has nowhere to go. And a dammed river eventually stops receiving new water too. This is where most people get stuck. They hear "give money away" and their whole body tenses. That tension is the lesson. Feel it right now. That slight contraction in your chest when someone suggests you release resources you worked hard to gather. That contraction is the exact vibration that slows abundance down. The gripping itself becomes the blockage. Neville Goddard taught that your state of consciousness is the cause of everything you experience. Your outer world is a mirror, so what state are you broadcasting when you clutch your resources in fear? You're broadcasting scarcity. You're telling the universe through every cell of your being that there isn't enough, that you need to protect what little you have, and the mirror, being faithful, reflects that scarcity right back to you as your lived experience. Tithing, understood vibrationally, is a deliberate act of stepping into a different state. When you circulate energy freely, whether that's money, time, attention, love, you embody the frequency of overflow. You become someone who has so much that giving is natural. And that embodiment, that assumption of abundance, is what reshapes your reality. But here's where it gets precise. The original principle says to return to the source. Where does your spiritual nourishment come from? Where do you receive the insights that shift your consciousness, the teachings that wake you up, the moments of clarity that redirect your entire life? That's your source. The principle isn't about dropping cash into any collection plate placed in front of you out of guilt or obligation. Guilt is a low-frequency emotion. Anything you give from guilt reinforces the vibration of debt, of owing, of being somehow insufficient. That's the opposite of what tithing is designed to do. The act has to carry joy. It has to feel like a natural exhale after a deep breath. You receive something that expanded you. The return is your way of saying, through action rather than words, I trust this flow. I am part of this circulation. I don't need to hoard because the source is infinite. Consider what happens in your body when you give something freely, with genuine pleasure. Your shoulders drop. Your breathing deepens. There's a warmth in your chest that feels like relief, like you just proved something to yourself. You prove that you believe in the abundance you've been affirming. Your actions caught up to your words. And that alignment, where what you say, what you feel, and what you do all match, is the most creative force available to you. Now contrast that with obligatory giving, the Sunday morning envelope where you calculate the minimum acceptable amount, the resentment sitting right behind the check, the mental math of what you could have done with that money instead. Every one of those thoughts is a signal, and the signal says, I'm losing something, I'm being diminished. This is leaving me with less. The universe doesn't distinguish between your words and your feelings. Your feelings are the prayer. So obligatory tithing, given in resentment, is actually a prayer for lack. You're vibrationally requesting more situations where you feel drained, obligated, and diminished. The institution gets your money. You get the energetic residue of the state you were in when you gave it. This is why so many people tithe religiously for years and never experience the overflow that was promised to them. The mechanism was right, the frequency was wrong. So what does authentic energetic tithing look like in practice? You wake up one morning and read something that cracks your life open. A passage, a teaching, a conversation that rearranges how you see yourself. Something in you shifts from contracted to expanded. That expansion is real. It came from somewhere. A teacher, a book, a friend, a moment of divine clarity during meditation. The principle says, circulate energy back toward that source. Give money, give your attention, give your time, give a referral, give something tangible that keeps the channel between you and that source active and alive. The amount matters less than the frequency behind it. $5 given with overflowing gratitude carries a higher vibration than $500 given through clenched teeth. The universe reads your energy, not your receipts. And the principle extends far beyond money. Every form of energy you circulate keeps the river moving. Compliments you give freely, knowledge you share without holding it as competitive advantage, love you express without waiting to see if it'll be returned first. Each of these is a tithe. Each one says, I have enough. I am enough. The flow is trustworthy. There's a counter-argument worth addressing honestly. Some people hear this teaching and think it sounds like a convenient justification for spiritual teachers to ask for money. Fair. That skepticism is healthy. But notice what the principle actually says. Return to your source, whatever genuinely nourishes you. If a teacher's work hasn't moved you, giving them money isn't tithing, it's people-pleasing. The principle requires discernment. You have to be honest with yourself about where your real growth comes from. That honesty is part of the practice. The deeper layer here connects to something the Hermetic tradition calls the principle of rhythm. Everything in this universe moves in cycles. Tides come in and go out. Seasons rotate. Your breath flows in and flows out. Trying to hold your breath indefinitely doesn't give you more air. It kills you. Trying to hold abundance indefinitely doesn't give you more wealth. It suffocates the very mechanism that delivers it. Tithing is you choosing to breathe out. Most people are walking around financially holding their breath. They've inhaled, they have income, resources, possessions, and they're holding on with everything they've got. Their faces are turning blue, and they're wondering why more air isn't coming. The exhale is what creates space for the next inhale. The release is what invites the next wave. When you truly understand this, giving stops feeling like sacrifice. It starts feeling like intelligence. Like spiritual strategy, you're working with the mechanics of how energy actually moves rather than against them. You're aligning your behavior with the same principle that moves oceans and spins planets. Try something. This week, identify where your deepest spiritual nourishment has come from recently. The teaching that landed hardest, the insight that stayed with you at 3 a.m, the voice or presence that made you feel less alone in your becoming. Then circulate something back toward that source. Do it before your mind can talk you out of it. Do it while the warmth is still in your chest. Watch what happens in the hours and days that follow. Watch how opportunities seem to lean toward you slightly. How conversations open doors you didn't knock on. How money shows up from angles you weren't tracking. The connection between your active circulation and these appearances isn't coincidence. It's correspondence. You changed your vibration, and your reality rearranged itself to match. The institution that taught you tithing was obligation accidentally buried one of the most useful spiritual tools ever preserved in scripture. They turned a living, breathing principle of energetic flow into a line item on a budget spreadsheet. They made it about duty when it was always about trust. They made it about their building fund when it was always about your consciousness. You now have the original instruction back. The river is yours. The flow is yours. The only question left is whether you'll keep holding your breath or finally, deliberately, with full awareness of what you're doing and why, exhale.